Thank you very much, Father Dominic. It's been an exciting journey of Friends of Sophia, or Resurrection of Knowledge, before this event. Yeah, it was so wonderful in London, but it's been many years ago. So now I feel like I moved through so many cities. So this presentation is called Contemporary Urban Hermitage, but it has also a subtitle From Oxford to London through Helsinki to Lausanne, where I'm currently based. I'm working for Michelangelo Foundation, which try to promote artisans around the world. But I did my research at Aalto University in Helsinki. And this first part of the presentation will be dedicated to my research, the one that I just finished, and the second half will be dedicated to the one that is now in the center of my attention, because it's a new project, and I will be very glad for any of your thoughts, any of your ideas, inspirations, or anything you would like to share with me regarding this project. So there will be very little text in this presentation, only 2 quotes, but I had to put this first one here because it kind of triggered or moved me to my original research about the spaces of embodiment, which was the title of my thesis, my PhD thesis at Aalto University. And it's a quote from Andrew Sullivan, who writes that modernity slowly weakens spirituality. Oh, sorry, I'll just move this. By design and accident, in favor of commerce. It downplayed silence and mere being in favor of noise and constant action. The reason we live in a culture increasingly without faith is not because science has somehow disproved the unprovable, but because the white noise of secularism has removed the very stillness in which it might endure or be reborn. And I pray that this presentation will be also an inspiration for a renewal, because God always creates everything new, and I pray that the Holy Spirit will help us to become more in line with Him at the end of this adventure that I'm going to take you to. So the question that always was at the center of my research was this one: do you love me? And I was always fascinated by how this question can be in the center of a typology of a sacred space, because it's a question that is not asking for any kind of information or objective description of a physiological response, nor a phenomenological description of a feeling state, but it demands words that are commitment or refusal, but not mere description. It's a demand for reaffirmation of love. And I think this question, when asked from a person or to a person who loves us, always kind of moves something within us. It changes something within our inner self. And it's also a question that asks for renewal. And I think it's central because my project is also asking for a renewal of a current state of the architecture of sacred spaces, and it hopes to bring a new answer for our contemporary world. And so far through my research, the typologies of the architecture of the space, of the sacred space that I encountered, were giving me an answer which was very informative. It could look like this. I told you last year, and I'm referring to the old churches, which has its own magic and its own spark. But I was always looking how we can, for an answer, or for how this question can be asked in a new way. So basically I was asking and looking for a place which can be contemporary, answering the questions of contemporary men or women, and maybe giving a possibility of people who doesn't know the source of the greatest love, to give them a possibility to experience love and to experience him. From the beginning of my research, which was very sociological, I encountered these two challenges of our contemporary society. These are extreme urbanization and digitalization. These are just few deltas that are coming from the United Nations Department of Economics and Social Affairs, and state which is referring to research, which says that by 2050 there will be more than 66% of the population living in the biggest cities, whereas already now there are 3 million people coming to the biggest cities every week. And it struck me in a way how we will perceive these kinds of cities, how we will experience spirituality and intimacy in such a condensed and urbanized areas. And the second challenge was digitalization, and it refers to this. In my research, I always refer to this quote from Sherry Turkle, who stated, or who is sharing her personal feeling or sentiment about how she feels when she walks or in the street or travels in the train. Sometimes I walk down the street and I'm the only person not plugged in. No one is where they are. We are talking to someone miles away. I miss them. This reminds me of my everyday travels to Geneva, where I'm probably the only person who is not plugged in, who is not on his or her phone. And it's exciting to see how easy it is for oneself to kind of hide within the virtual world. My remedy for this virtuality was always sauna. And this was something that I'm very thankful for to my Finnish friends who introduced me to the ritual of sauna in Finland. And this is a screenshot from one very interesting documentary, which is called Steam of Life. You can watch it if you like. It's a documentary that shares a story of Finnish, otherwise very close or sometimes quite cold and introvert people who, however, in a sauna suddenly find a place to share their stories, the biggest secrets of their life in relationship with others, in a conversation with others. Those of you who already experience sauna, you probably know that it's a space which is very hot, where you usually sit or lie naked. And it's kind of impossible not to find somebody who you can share something, because sauna people are usually very inclined to create a community. And in Finland, they have a saying that the sauna friends are the best friends. Japanese people have something very similar. They have a saying that the onsen friends or communities are the best communities. And I think there is something very special about sauna in a way that it's an offline zone. You can't use a computer or your phone there. You are not plugging. You have to you somehow have to, or are you are in a relationship with others because you are naked. It's hard to hide your imperfections. And yeah, I think the heat, the extreme heat, sometimes sweat out the biggest secrets of our life. And yeah, this documentary is about that. But moreover, it helped me to also kind of design or find out what kind of typology it could be for my future sacred space that can trigger the same kind of sentiment, the same kind of sensory or embodily experience. So these were my case studies. I will present them to you through photos. The Londoners probably know, because this is in central London at King's Cross Pond. At King's Cross, it's a King's Cross Pond. This is Hampstead Heath, especially, this is particularly the women's pond. My other case study was Campi Chapel. It's a chapel which is built in the very center of Helsinki. And this chapel or this project can be an answer for the question which I already asked in this presentation, how we can experience the spirituality in the biggest cities, how we can be in a present moment in silence. And this building was particularly constructed in order to be deprived from the noise of the city. So when you enter inside, you can really experience a complete silence. And here there is another case study that I analyzed in my research, which is Kulttuurisauna in Helsinki. And the last is, my last case study is Terme Vals in Switzerland, made by famous architect Peter Zumthor. And as you can see, most of these projects, which reminds me of the typology of the sauna. So they use water, they use natural water source, they use heat, they work with the physical body, they are in connection with nature, and they use the very basic elements of the light and the opposite of darkness, the extremes of temperature from 0 to approximately 90 degrees in sauna, And they use, as I said, water or natural water source. They work with humidity and dryness. And I try to combine these very basic elements in order to see what kind of sensoric experience they can trigger for the physical body. And here you can see how I applied these elements to my case studies. This is King's Cross Pond in London. This is Kulttuuri Sauna in Helsinki. And these are the elements. It's a much bigger variety of elements that I combine together through the project of Terme Vals. Well, this was one of the outcomes of my research, but obviously for the PhD project, I had to do many analyses of various typologies of sacred spaces, also the typical ones as various churches, chapels, mosques, or hammam, for instance, which is a sacred space of Islam, which already works with the physical body and the embodied experience in a religious context. This was the research that created a very natural continuation for me in a kind of way that that helped me to reply or to find a response for the question which I already asked you: do you love me? Because from the original typology of the sacred spaces, I couldn't find any which I can work and move. But I found one which was a hermitage. I got fascinated by the idea of creating hermitages in the biggest cities, or applying them or building them in the forest or park nearby, or in the surrounding, or in the suburban areas of the biggest cities. And as you can read, this project aspires to create a revival of monastic sensibility via an investigation of bodily and sensory forms. Probably most of you know that the term hermit was originally applied to a Christian who lives the hermetic life out of a religious conviction, namely the desert theology of the Old Testament. In the Christian tradition, the hermetic life is an early form of monastic living that preceded the monastic life in the cenobium, a monastic tradition that stresses community life. My understanding of contemporary hermitage does not exclude living in community, but create the possibility for temporal solitude in order to live a more vital life in the society, especially now in the age of technological revolution. And here, at the end of this presentation, I would like to share a couple of features that I named, and now I'm trying to design for the project of contemporary urban hermitage, which I would like to apply to Lausanne, because there is an organization that invited me to work on a call or on a competition, which is interested in creating public spaces that trigger sensory experience and create a kind of an intimate and spiritual atmosphere, and helps people to concentrate, be in a present mode or in presence, and in connection with their body. And these features are that it can be a modular type of architecture where each module or each part of the skeleton can be carried to the place by the community of people that are building this contemporary hermitage in order to have some kind of relationship with the place, but also with the building. It provides temporary solitude. It's an offline zone. It consists of only one room, because I believe that if there won't be any small other rooms which are hiding some kind of material or furniture that is hiding belongings of the person who comes there. I believe that if it's only one room, which is very open and visible, it can reflect backwards and so on, the inner self, the inner space in us, and also where we can meditate on the idea of not hiding anything in us. So that's why one room. It's a place of sensory experience. So I'm working with textile designers to choose either the carpets or the curtains, which are very haptic. So we are trying to use the material which is not only visually appealing, but also haptically appealing. It can be a place where an icon or an Eucharist can be placed, especially if it is under the territorial diocese or territorial area of the diocese, where a priest can bring the Eucharist, for instance, for adoration. It's a place of monastic experience. It's a place for contemplative prayer, for contemplation. It's a place for the spiritual community of monks, priests, but also lay people, brothers and sisters, to receive some kind of, to give or to receive the spiritual direction. It is also a place which is in a very near connection to the nature. It probably will be a place with no electricity, with nature, which will be lighted up or which will use the natural light. There is a possibility to build this hermitage on a tree. I experienced already a request from Capuchins in Slovakia who doesn't own a land, but they are in a conversation with the owner of one field that will allow them to build the hermitage on a tree. It's a very ecological and environmentally friendly building, which uses solar panels and renewable energy. And sauna can be part of the hermitage and can also be a source of the heating, especially if there is a Korean traditional home heating system used, which is called ondo, where floor is heated, where floor is heated by circulation of hot air, as you can see in this image. So these were my ideas of contemporary hermitage being placed in the biggest cities, which allows people to be in the present moment in meditation or contemplation, being with them in the presence, in connection with their body. And thank you very much for your attention. I will be grateful for any of your thoughts. If we have still some time, I don't know, Father Dominic, if we have still some time, but I guess we have like maybe 5 to 8 minutes. I prepared some questions, or I can share with you some problems I'm dealing with or some traps that I'm encountering. And these I'm proposing on these 2 slides, but I don't know if we have time for that. But I will stop sharing for a while in order to see you. Sorry. Hello.
Veronika, thank you very much indeed. A wonderful presentation. You never allow us to do theology in the past tense. As ever, I loved you last year. So thank you very much. We did lose a bit of time, of course, because of the technical problems, but I think we should allow maybe till 25 past. If Peter, we could start you with about 20, and then we have a 15-minute break. Would that be all right? Yeah. Sure. So on the schedule here, you're down 35. Right, okay. So we just have 5 minutes with Veronika, and then we have a quick cup of tea, and we bring our tea back in here. How about that? Thank you, Veronika. So does anybody have any comments or questions for Veronika, first of all? I'm just going to open the chat.
I will be grateful for any of your comments. I can also share these 2 last slides, which I have. These are kind of my questions. These are the images from Switzerland, from La Salle House. Wow. And the problems I'm encountering in this project is that how to create a Christian space which is open for anybody with no religious affiliation, without losing our identity. And as you can, sorry, just last sentence, as you can see, these are the meditational places of La Salle House in Switzerland, which reminds me very much of a Buddhist monastery. And I'm kind of, I don't know, it's frightening me that we will have to go this way, though myself personally, I really like these kind of meditations, but I'm trying to find out how we can create something that will be more in line with the Christian tradition. But maybe I'm wrong, so let's see.
Thank you, Veronika. So anybody got any thoughts or questions for Veronika? Yes.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. I don't know if you can hear me, Veronika.
I can repeat your question, Patrick.
Thank you. I found what you said enormously refreshing, because as somebody myself, and I guess most of us here, steeped in Christian tradition and theological language and theological imagery, the problem that I'm all too aware of is that for the modern secular person, and I'm even thinking of my own daughters and their husbands who never go near churches now, the language she's talking is accessible to contemporary people in a way that you and I, Francis, and many others stuck in the tradition often are not accessible.
Yeah. Did you hear that, Veronika? Good,
yes,
great.
The second part was clear, but you can repeat the question. Maybe.
Yes, so it was saying that Canon Patrick was saying that he's very aware that those of us who are really steeped, that is deeply rooted in the Christian tradition, in a theological tradition, you've actually spoken a language which is very accessible to people now, and many of the next generation just don't go to church at all. So, yes, so thank you very much.
More a comment, really.
More a comment than a question.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Perfect, thank you.
So the new work of Tom Bree, where we're looking now at the old, but bringing it into the present day with the arithmetic, is also going to bridge between worlds, I believe. And if you were to tie in that concept of the arithmetic into the building, because I knew of somebody who built a pyramid to actually go and sit in order to contemplate what you're talking about, because she experienced sort of like difficulties, and this pyramid helped her to re-stabilize herself in her own sort of world.
Thank you. Were you able to hear that all right, Veronika?
Yes, again, the beginning was kind of...
Yes, so this morning, Tom Bree who is an expert on sacred geometry, and he was talking about the number symbolism of Wells Cathedral, particularly around the planet Venus, which becomes a symbol of Our Lady and of sacred wisdom.
Mhm.
So what is being suggested, that can be a kind of a bridge between the old world and the new world that you're describing.
Mhm. Perfect. If
Maybe that will help a bit with keeping the symbolism Christian, but being as an accessible space.
That's right. Because